So the religious temples of that time were sort of constant barbecue pits. Poor people took pigeons up and they would be sacrificed on the altar and burned, and the smoke would go up to appease the gods, and they would be eaten. Richer people might have a lamb or a cow, and people would eat pretty good off of that, but that was a constant sacrifice. Everywhere you turned, life was about sacrifice, and you attempted to get something between you and the patron to sacrifice so that it could appease God or pacify your patron. You would give up things. Even the Roman soldiers, when they were dissatisfied, would ask for you to pick people from your midst, and they would slaughter them before you so that you would be made afraid, and so that they would be appeased that nobody was going to rise up against them or cause them any trouble. Crucifixion was about this. Crucifixions were very horrible deaths, and they were publicly done to cast terror and fear upon those who were viewing the death. So sacrifice and crucifixion and death were a common theme among the people of that time. The people who knew Jesus wanted to express to everybody else what Jesus meant to them. That he had turned their lives upside down, that he had changed the whole view of the way they viewed reality. And so they used the metaphors of the sacrifice. Jesus was the high priest. You read in Hebrews, Jesus was Melchizedek. He was the high priest. Now the high priests were the ones who conducted sacrifice. And they were the ones who took the blood and went into the Holy of Holies and spread the blood around the Holy of Holies, which covered your sin. That is, no longer could you be charged for your sin because it had been covered by the blood of the Lamb. And Jesus was the blood of the Lamb. There's also a story that's referred to in the New Testament from Isaiah, where they took one lamb and they poured blood and whatever else on that lamb, and then they let that lamb go off in the desert, ran it out of the community to go out in the desert to die. And that was the lamb that takes away the sins of the world. And so Jesus was the lamb who takes away the sins of the world. Jesus was the sacrifice that made everything right. Now you might want to raise a question, as some have, how could you believe in a God that would do this to his Son? But that question misses the whole point of what is going on and what is being expressed here, and what they came to see in the crucifixion of Jesus. That this was the sacrifice that ended all sacrifice. You didn't need to do that anymore. Because this was God sacrificing God's self for the sake of all, to demonstrate that God loved God's creation, to make a statement that the world has been turned upside down and the old way of looking at things no longer was valid. that this sacrifice of God was full and complete and for all times. God loves God's creation. Full stop. Now this brings on with it an issue of life. For this is not about a belief system. This is not about a theology. This is not about some rational statement. This is about life. This is about how you choose to live your life. For this puts the options plainly on the table. One can decide to live their life either out of cruciformity with God or out of suicide. Suicide's an interesting concept, you know. We usually think of suicide as putting a bullet in our brain. But as the medical profession tells us, you know, we decide a lot about how long we live by what we eat and how we behave and what lifestyles we choose. We also commit suicide when we decide we will live life for ourselves and to hell with everybody else. We cut ourselves off from life itself. That I will do what I very well please and the devil take the hindmost. That I will take my bundle of headaches and heartaches and I will live out of it and tell people how bad life is and how terrible things are and how I didn't deserve this or that or the other thing.